Marvel's Runaways is the hidden gem of Marvel TV shows you didn't even know existed. It kind of feels like if you mixed the Marvel Netflix shows with the Disney Plus shows and combined it to one. It actually came out around when Defenders dropped, so the Disney Plus shows didn't even exist yet. And like the Netflix shows, were never canonized to the MCU. And before we start, this video took way too long to make, so if you could consider subbing or liking the video just before we start, I would love it. And of course, it's free if you don't like the video at the end. Let me give you all a quick rundown before we go over the whole entire season 1. The show is about a group of 6 superpowered teens finding out that their parents are evil. The kids find a secret basement where they find their parents sacrificing a runaway teen for an unknown cause. And what's even more bizarre is the way they cover this up is by having a charity organization called Pride. So in reality, people are thinking they're actually doing everything good, but they are not. They just are not doing good things. Now that the kids know, they want to stop them. So we follow their journey throughout the whole entire season 1. And I'm here to go over it. There's 6 kids, which means there's 2 parents per kid, and there's a lot of characters, so let's go over all of them separately. First up, we got Alex Wilder, the leader of the Runaways, and his parents, Jeffrey and Catherine Wilder. He has 0 powers, so all he can really bring is knowledge. The witch, Nico Monaru, and her parents, Robert and Tina Monaru. She has the Staff of One, which can grant any wish she says, but the only catch is she can only do it once, which I particularly like because I'm not a big fan of magical people, just because they have an unlimited array of whatever they want to do, and this kind of limits her power, which I really do enjoy. Next up, the alien Carolina Dean, with her parents Leslie and Frank Dean, and unlike the other groups, Frank actually has no clue what they're doing. He thinks it's a charity group too, so he is completely fucking blind to all this. Carolina's powers aren't fully described in the first season. She kind of is explained as she's this glowy figure where she can shoot rays of, I don't want to say sunshine, but it kind of looks like just a glowy, starry ray of light. Extremely powerful. Following her, we have the dinosaur whisperer Gertrude York, and her parents Dale and Stacy York, which Dale and Stacy are my favorite parents off the whole entire TV show. They are just fantastic. Anyways, Gertrude has a telepathic link with a dinosaur named Old Lace. Whatever she says, Old Lace goes straight for it and does it, which leads us into our next runaway, Molly Hayes, which actually is an orphan adopted by Gert and the Yorks. Her powers come in the form of super strength, but every time she uses a super strength, she has to take a rest because of how exerting the energy is. Lastly, we have Chase Stein, the jock of the group, and his parents Victor and Janet Stein. Chase's powers come in the form of technology. He stole a pair of x-ray goggles from his parents, which he barely uses in the show, which is so disappointing because of how cool they are. And then lastly, the Fistigons, which are a pair of gloves that can shoot fire. I understand that was a lot to take in, so if you get the premise of the show, the first kind of ish start, and a little bit about the characters. If you haven't already noticed, I really like the show. It's a breath of fresh air to the normal Marvel properties where you're always worrying about this overall universe and what's going to happen in this movie and that movie, but instead it's all confined to this one TV show. You might be wondering what really drew me in. After watching tons of movies and TV shows about superheroes, what really drew me in is the development of the villains. One complaint you always hear about the MCU is the villains are lacking, but in this TV show, hell no. I mean, hell, if you look at the show, there's 16 main characters and 10 of them are being the parents, so they seem pretty important to me. From the second the parents get on the screen, they are fed way more information better than the comics. In this iteration, they actually take you through the POV of the parents and show their inner workings and really reasoning why they're doing all the maniacal evil things they're doing. Before people yell at me, there are pages like this. I don't know if the screen students are going to do it, but like there are pages where they thoroughly explain like the villains of the comics with their slides and stuff, but just not as good as the TV show. The thing that really gripped me in each and every episode was the characterization and all of the characters, with my favorite kid being Nico and my favorite parents being the Yorks. For example, the show likes to explore how each character takes on their parents being evil. Alex giving the benefit of the doubt, but also being skeptical. Nico already being distant from her parents because of her sister's death is accepting the fact. Gert throws away the thought because of how weird and goofy her parents already are. Chase, always having tension with his father, cannot even think about him being a murderer. Like Gert, Carolina cannot even think about the fact that her parent might be a murderer. I mean, she's the head of her own church / her religion and takes care of everything religious of that church. Like, how can you even think about it? And Molly, being the youngest, is frightened and scared of even thinking about it, not wanting to make a decision, and even going to Gert for comfort. And of course, these are only their initial thoughts, and as all shows do, they develop through the whole entire season. Stepping away from the characters, let's talk about the plot. And of course, this is a review, not a recap, so so we're not going to dig straight in and tell you every little bits and details of the whole entire plot and show, but I'm going to give you a brief view of it. One thing I was worried about being a fan of the comics is how well do they adapt it from the source material. So they shit all over it, or do they really keep to the same theme and just feel of how the comics was? And as you can probably already tell, I'm pretty damn satisfied. Of course, some of the big things being changed from the comics is Frank Dean not being a part of Pride at all. Hey, so this is editing me. So there's going to be a few spoilers ahead, so I'm going to have a time posted on the screen right now. Skip to that if you don't want to hear the spoiler. It's only a few seconds long, and every time there's a spoiler, I'm going to come back and do the exact same thing. Instead of Caroline's father being Frank, it is Jonah, this new made character for the show. I can tell you, he's pretty damn awesome. We'll get to him later. Speaking of original characters, Nico now having a sister that originally, of course, was not in the comic run. Instead of Nico pushing away Carolina's advances in the show of relationship, she kind of instead brings it towards and likes to flourish it, making an origin story for Jeffrey Wilder, in turn adding a character named Darian and a whole other plot in it with that. And of course, them not having the rights to mutants, Molly couldn't be a mutant. Instead, she got her origins from a crystal from her parents. I also forgot to include that Molly is Latina in this show instead of Caucasian like in the comic, but almost everything they added adds to the plot and feels authentic to the actual story, not being added unnecessarily. And one vital instrument being played throughout the whole entire show is mystery. Not only the mystery of the kids finding out what their parents are really doing, the overseeing bad guy of the parents isn't really shown till later in the show. The buildup of the big bad feels earned, and him and himself is a mystery. And you might be wondering, what have we been doing this whole entire time if we've not been showing this big bad guy? It's spent on fleshing out the parents. It really shows what is important to them and where their loyalty lies. There's going to be some spoilers ahead. Skip to the time on the screen if you don't want to hear them. Over all these years, each parent was given a purpose, but they didn't really know what the end result was going to be. They gladly accepted Jonah's riches, with not really knowing what his main motivation was. The one gripe I do want to get out of the way is that the kids do not actually run away till the end of the season. The last episode is when they actually run away. That could have been done a little bit earlier, but that all leads up to season 2 at least. And there was this one plot line where Chase and his dad did make this time machine thing, and it showed some video of a future Chase trying to tell his father to not do something. It was kind of thrown in there, and it didn't really resolve. Hopefully in season 2 they do resolve it. But, yeah. And of course, the unneeded drama, like Chase's mom and Nico's dad having a relationship on the sideline, just really wasn't needed. I understand that it's kind of a drama show, so they stuck it in there, but not even really important. They kind of brushed it off middle of the show. So with every review, I want to check out what other people think. So I went on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm going to look at the score of the show, the season, what other critics think, what other just random audience people think. I want to see what's up. Like, I have my opinion. I want to see other people's and, compare. Maybe my opinion will change. So, first off, the tomato score is 86% from the critics, 81% from the audience. So, pretty similar score. Seems like kind of a mutual agreement, and that show is pretty damn good. But what's most important is what are the people saying? What are the actual words being put on the screen? Let us check. Here we go. Critic reviews from Marvel Runaways. Let's see. The first one is a rotten review. If you haven't really already noticed, too, is I didn't feel like putting my green screen up, so you just get the regular face cam without the green screen. See a little background, do whatever you want. But first review is going to be a rotten review from Marine Ryan. Ultimately, Runaways seems a little too tentative for its own good, which is weird given that the drama is about welding power for both good and ill. Not in too much detail for this review. I don't think a rotten review is really set for that opinion, but whatever. Halo, what's up, Halo? Runaways has only just skimmed the surface of multidimensional world and complex emotional narrative, and I'm already hooked. Perfect. Look at that. Joe, he does not look like he's enjoying himself here. What does he got to say? All the music and sunny vibes are appropriate. The lethargic pacing and additional focus on the adults makes the series feel drawn out and suggests Josh Schwartz and Stephanie Savage misunderstood the appeal of the comic. See, I don't agree with Joe. I honestly completely disagree with Joe. I think taking the time with the parents is exactly what the show is used for. It's what makes it good. Stuff. I feel like getting to know them more and spending all that time with them makes you care about them, fully understand the characters and see where they're coming from and really what their motives are, and honestly just experience how cool they are. I think a lot of the parents are super duper cool, so I'm not gonna agree with Joe here. We'll read one more critic. Let's see. Marvel's Runaway catapults us into the future where demographics match those of reality and can be attracted to whoever the hell you want. Again, I think from the comics was made early 2000s, so that is 20 years ago. The way they adapted it to this kind of time. Let's look at some bad audience reviews. I got Issa. Wow, this show is unbearably horrible. It almost makes me angry how bad this show is, and it's an embarrassment to be associated with Marvel. How this got 3 seasons is beyond me. Just a horrible, horrible teenage soap opera that barely makes any progress after 3 episodes. I try hard to bear it, but fell asleep and got distracted too easily. Don't waste your time on this unless you don't want to watch a superhero movie and prefer cheesy teenage dramas. Well, Izza, I think you need to sit down, get away from the keyboard, just watch more than 3 episodes. Looks like you only watched 3 episodes of the show before you wrote the review. Everett, let's see what he got. Disclaimer, the show is wildly different than the comics, and I think that's why most people get turned off. The show isn't set in the MCU and tries to do its own thing, which it achieves pretty well. I enjoyed these variations of the characters from the comics a lot, liking the changes they did to some, Chase, and not so much others, Molly. The show does start a little slow and takes a few episodes to really get going, but it is worth the investment. Seeing as The Gifted is a recommended show to this one, and having watched both, this is a leagues better than that show. He is exactly right. Like, they changed a lot from the comics, but it really worked for the show, and everything they changed, they kind of worked in with the story. Like, if you saw a change from the comic, you can almost guarantee that it worked just for that narrative. They changed it to particularly work for the story they're telling, rather than the story they're telling in the comic. And I also disagree. I really like Molly in this iteration. I think the one thing that people really didn't like is like they aged up Molly a little bit, probably because the actor looked a little older and she's acting too childish. But Chase, I definitely think Chase, definitely different. I think the comics is more of a comedic relief and kind of just there, never really focal point of the comics. In this TV show, they took it a lot more serious, making him a lot smarter too. Like in the comics, he was fully a jock, and in this show, a lot smarter. That's gonna be the segment for the reviews. And of course, that's my brief look into the show. Each show and movie has their own interpretation to you, and how if you like it or if you don't like it, that's all up to you. You might have disliked some parts I liked, and I might have liked some parts you disliked. At the end of the day, if we can enjoy the show, that's all that really matters. And of course, before I go, if you like the video and subscribe to my channel, that would be greatly appreciated. I hope to see you again in a future video. I'm already working on other videos, but if you have any recommendations of other Marvel or DC TV shows or movies, just write them down in the comment section below, and I'll make a review of it.